Okay, it's 4 o'clock on Thursday, December 12th. We have a quorum, so I'll call this library board meeting to order. First item is the approval of the agenda, which everyone has before them on their tablet. And I make a motion that we approve the agenda as shown.
I will second that.
I have a motion and a second, and Paulina has let me know that there's no changes or additions from her part. Anybody else have any changes or additions? All right, hearing none, then all in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Second item is the approval of the minutes from the November 14th meeting. I will make a motion to approve the minutes. They're printed on the, they can be found on the tablet as well.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion, corrections, additions? All right, I'd like to say, though, that Paulina did a great job at taking the minutes. She had double duty last month because not only was April not here, but then our normal secretary, Dave Martinka, was not here. So Paulina had to not only present everything, but then she also had to take minutes as well. So
Thank you.
super job on that. All right, so all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried. All right, now we'll get into the financial report. Paulina?
Okay, we are 92.6% through 2019, and our budget is approximately 78.86% expended. Contractual maintenance building bills in November included remittances to Gopher Alarms for alarm monitoring, River View sanitation, and we did receive the reimbursement for trees that was credited at $250 for the planting we did on the boulevard. Special programming bills included Radzu, Brad Quintet, and supplies for Blacklight Bingo that we'll be having, and the St. Nick program. Otherwise, everything else looks good.
Okay, so what is Blacklight Bingo?
Sounds
fun.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I'm not sure. I think they're going to do it by Blacklight on a Friday afternoon coming up. I think it's going to be on December 27th for the children, young adults, teens. Yep.
So was that special daubers or something that can be
I
read
think
by
so,
Blacklight or
yeah.
something?
I think so. And I think lighting, some kind of lights too.
Okay. All right, any questions for Paulina on the budget? So as we're coming to the end of the year, there's nothing really that jumps out as being way overspent.
No, I'm just building a little bit. We're at 100 for computer supplies and equipment, and we're still purchasing a couple of things through the middle of the month. So.
Okay, so but otherwise we look like we're running pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So I envision we'll clear out the year in a pretty good
Shape, yeah.
status. All right, let's move on then to the librarian's report. We'll start with the library department activities report and statistics. Paulina?
On Saturday, November 16th, we hosted Rad Zoo, the Reptile and Amphibian Discovery Zoo. We had 137 kids and adults get a chance to learn about reptiles and amphibians in the hour-long program. The only native reptile presented was the corn snake, and the event ended with an opportunity for the audience to touch the zoo's youngest alligator, whose name was Squirt.
That was in the paper too, right?
Yeah,
There was
it was,
yeah.
yeah. On November 20th, the Storytime goers were treated to a presentation by the Riverfront Performing Arts of their original work, Northwood's Nutcracker. Dancers and characters from the show came in costume to present. They also were giving a ticket for free admission to the performance. Myself and the youth services librarian met with the director of the United Way. We're discussing a potential Imagination Library author program. So getting one of the authors from that program to come here and potentially to Springfield Library as well. So we met with Lori and Catherine. The Friends Book Sale brought in about $1,899 in sales, with $410 in memberships and $275 in donations last month, which came to a total of $2,584. That's down a little bit. Last year we made just $2 under 3,000, to $2,998. And then I do have one follow-up from last month's meeting. I know there was a question on how many New Ulm items were marked damaged or lost in 2019. And we only had 33 New Ulm library items that were damaged, lost, and lost/paid in our system.
So is that considered high or low, or?
I think it's medium. I think it's kind of low, to be honest, a little bit. Yeah, so it's not too bad.
Okay, now, and you're also on the United Way board, correct?
Yes, I am.
So could you give us a little, maybe summary of what the Imagination Library program is?
Oh, sure. So it's a program for children 5 and under. The United Way partners and provides free books. They send a free book to newborns through 5 to their house every month. And then United Way sponsors that and pays for all of that. Yeah.
All right, anything else for the department activities report then and statistics? All right, then we'll move on to programming. April?
The Minnesota Valley Civil War Roundtable will meet on Tuesday, December 17th at 6:30 p.m. Tom Romaine will be presenting on the impact of disease during the Civil War. Lego Club will meet on Thursday, December 19th from 3:30 to 5 p.m. Children ages 5 and older are invited to join. Every month they do a building challenge, or kids can choose to do free building, whichever they're interested in. On Friday, December 27th at 3 p.m., we'll be offering the Black Light Bingo, as mentioned. This is for kids in 5th through 8th grade. Pizza and prizes will be offered. We did purchase a black light. Kids are encouraged to wear white so that they'll show up in the dark. And Catherine bought glow sticks as well to make it kind of a fun event. So we're excited to try that out. DNR naturalist Scott Kadelka will present Spiders, Friend or Foe on Tuesday, January 7th at 6:30 p.m. He'll be discussing spider species found in Minnesota. His presentation is geared for adults, but all ages are welcome.
You think this will be as popular as the reptile program was?
Well, he's not bringing spiders, which some people might appreciate. On Thursday, January 16th at 1:30, the library will be hosting a screening of the PBS documentary American Creed, followed by a community conversation led by Dr. Timothy Grundmeyer, who is a professor of history at Martin Luther College. Attendees can expect to explore the idea of a unifying American Creed and what it means to be an American today. And this was a grant that we received to cover the cost of the public screening and a honorarium for Dr. Grundmeyer through the National Endowment for the Humanities. Does anyone have any questions on programming?
All right, then we'll switch over to staffing update. Paulina?
Sure. We will be interviewing 6 people for the programming and technology services position next week. We also had a library aide give her resignation, and her last day was on December 6th, and that position has been posted internally for 10 days.
All right, then we'll move on to the Traverse to Sioux Delivery Options Committee.
Sure. So I joined that committee. The Traverse to Sioux courier contracts expires at the end of the month, and 2 bids were received. One was from Alliance, our current courier service, and the other one was from Gold, which is a newer service. I don't think Traverse to Sioux has used it before. Gold is actually $38,000 cheaper, and at the next library directors meeting, we'll be voting between the 2 before a recommendation to the TDS board is made. I just wanted to let the board know I intend to vote for Alliance and stick with the Courier that we currently have. We receive a 5-day-a-week delivery with them, and the proposal that was presented with Gold is for 3 days a week delivery to New Ulm. So there'd be a lag in materials that we receive. It will impact us with that change, I think. It's difficult to say how some of the other libraries are leaning right now. I think some of the libraries are leaning towards Gold, so I don't know what we'll do. I think if we do go with Gold, we can make our workflow work, and we'll see how that is. The committee will be recommending to the library directors to only, if we were to go with Gold, to only go for a year instead of a 3-year term. So if the TDS board does go with Gold, our fee for the Courier would be reduced in 2020. It would be $2,600. So that would be a savings of $4,200. And obviously, we would adapt to the new workflow. If we were to continue with Alliance, that would be $6,400. It's actually $520 cheaper from what TDS budgeted in the fees for us. So either way, we'll see a reduction of fees to whichever one we end up going with.
Okay, sounds like a kind of a tough decision. to go
Yeah,
with
so we'll see.
Either the money or the service.
Right, and
The reason they're cheaper, I'm assuming, is because they're only delivered 3 days a week, right?
right, and it'll impact, I know, Martin County, Waseca, Watonwan, us all receive 5 days a week right
Or do
now.
they all have voting members on this committee then, or?
Yeah, well, this is just a committee. We decided on how our votes would be weighed. If a library director doesn't, not everyone shows up to the monthly meetings as well. So we'll also open it up so they will be able to vote online, which we've never done
Oh,
before.
well, that'd be good.
Which is
Okay.
good, yeah, because you never know, depending on weather, things like
Yep.
that. Not everyone is able to attend. So that was just an options committee in terms of how to make that vote go. We didn't make a recommendation on which one to go with, just how it would work.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's about 4 of us that I think would go from 5 to 3. Blue Earth County, Mankato would stick with 5 mostly because the Courier also goes through TDS, which is located in Mankato, so it wouldn't affect them as much as some of us.
Okay, so then you'll be able to give us an update next month as to how it
I
turned
hope
out?
so. I think maybe not. I think that TDS board will meet the week after. I
Oh,
want to say
okay.
the third
So maybe
Thursday.
not be till February.
Till
then.
February, yeah. And with Alliance, our contract expires on the 31st, and then I think we just go month to month, but they need 30 days if we were to not go with them too. So.
Okay, and you had mentioned about annual versus 3-year. So is
Right now,
that-
we're on a 3-year, we've been on a 3-year contract, I believe, with.
But is that what
the Courier.
Alliances is coming back? Their proposal is continued for another 3 years then, or?
To be honest, I'm not sure. Yeah.
Pauline, did the board put out an RFP for these bids? I just find it curious that they're considering a bid for 3 days a week, and the other company bid a full week.
Right.
They had options to bid it differently, or there was no specifications, they could, excuse me.
I think they did bid, I believe Gold did not particularly give a quote for 5 days because they wouldn't have been competitive to Alliance. So, yeah, but I'm not exactly sure how TDS, Traverse de Sud, proctored those, yeah.
Just curious how they can consider
Agreed.
that bid as a bid if it,
Right.
if
If it's
it's
not apples to apples, yeah.
Yeah.
that much different.
And that has been come up in discussions as well, yeah. And there's also, the executive director of TDS has been looking at other alternatives too, in terms of other courier services, but she just hasn't been able to find some, I guess, in the area.
Or they
So.
could possibly ask Alliance, okay, submit a proposal if you were to only go 3 days a week, and they could see how that
Oh, right,
compares
that's true.
to gold, and then they could make a determination if they want to save some money, but have the impact of only 3 days a week versus staying with 5 days a week if they go with Alliance.
Right.
So,
Yeah, in a one-year contract versus a three-year agreement. I mean, that.
Right.
Okay.
I'm just wondering too, at that for 3 days of delivery, what would that lag mean? What if they chose to deliver Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
Right.
And then that's a long leg for
Right.
someone
Good point,
who
yeah.
needs
Instead
them.
of, I was
Right, who
assuming Monday,
needs-
Wednesday,
yeah.
Friday, but you're
Yeah.
right, it could be.
Yeah.
Especially if you throw in a holiday.
Yeah.
Right. And I know some county libraries at the moment, they do get deliveries on, I think, Fridays, but they're closed or closed earlier than normal. So their deliveries also, are at the library through the weekend before anyone can get to it as well. So it's, it has a lot of moving parts to it.
Do we get deliveries every day?
We do, Monday to
And we
Friday.
actually do get something every day of the week then? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
a good question.
That's
It would be a
important,
huge, it would be a
Right.
huge impact to our patrons then.
Yeah.
Yeah, our average delivery is 4 or 5 tubs a day.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes more. It depends. Summer is
Yeah.
busier.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, anything more for Paulina on the delivery options? All right, good discussion. All right, now we'll move on to carpet replacement rebidding.
Right.
Paulina?
I spoke with the city manager after the last library board meeting that week after, and we will need to rebid the carpet replacement. And I told him we'll probably do that in early 2020 sometime with more specifications and what we're looking for as well. I spoke with Vince. We'll also get carpet tiles, what time they can work, things like that in the quotations. Yep.
And I suggested, Paulina and I had some discussions, I suggested we look at bidding a design home as
Oh,
well.
yes. Mhm,
'Cause,
yes.
they've done some work a lot of work for us out at 3M. And they have a good selection of carpet as well as they have a selection of installers. Speaking of that, did Pullman ever get back to you with regard to the response that we sent to his negative?
No.
Okay. But they'll be included in the rebid as well then?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, anything else on that topic? Okay, then we'll move on to the Children's Room Renovation Committee update.
Okay, the Children's Room Committee met this morning. I wasn't able to attend. I don't know if Margaret wants to talk, or I have some notes from Catherine.
Well, we ended up I was there for an
Yeah.
hour and a half.
Oh, were
so
you really? Oh, okay.
We had a meeting and then we had another meeting.
Oh,
and
yeah.
kind of- So there was lots of discussion. You can give your notes,
Oh, sure.
I'll add into what.
Okay. So a designer from Design Home joined them for the meeting to talk about ideas for the room and presented the committee with a proposal for painting, reupholstery of the soft seating and window treatments. And the total cost exceeds the amount of the monies we have for the remodel. The committee didn't feel like they could make a decision on the painting or make any concrete changes without seeing something first. And further thoughts were to create a top 10 list of must-haves for the space. Currently, painting and moving the children's desk are number 1 and 2 on the list. Catherine will be contacting more designers to gain at least a couple more perspectives. And there was further conversation about ideas for wall color and design. And they'll be meeting again in January and hopefully have another point to start from.
Yeah, I think that we all, at the meeting today, we had great information from Design Home. So we had a vision, I think, to look at it, though, the space, trying to determine what we need and don't want from it, and making sure that the librarians who are up there on a regular basis find it functional as well. So it's almost taking a step back when you don't have that design mindset. It's hard to visualize some of those things. So I think that's where everyone was struggling with, what is that color really going to look like in here? How would we do that, and kind of stuff. So we had some really good discussions and some good ideas, and I think going back and really being specific about what items we need to have with this change that are going to fit within our budget will help make it the most functional as possible.
So does Design Home like have CAD software where they can show
They-
it like realtors do, where,
That was the one question that we had, because I asked whether or not we could get it drafted of at least like what we're looking at from different color concepts with the room. They charge extra for that. She was going to go back and talk to her CAD drawer to determine how much or how long it would take to do a portion of the room so that we could visualize it. And go back with it. I also gave the women some suggestion on how they could sit down and look at colors, because that room has such amazing light in it. But that light is going to change the color of those walls at every time of the day. And that
every season.
And every season. So they're going to have to live with those colors, because we're not going to want to repaint that either. So we discussed some different options and stuff, and we'll hear what Design Home, I'm hoping that they'll be able to give us a little bit better visual, because it's really, I think, again, really hard for us to visualize how this is going to look and make sure that we want those colors, because it's a big expense.
Yeah. Plus, they can also then utilize that same software for rearranging the room, like you were talking about, moving the desks and stuff like that. So, I mean, they can come up with different scenarios.
When we talked about doing the drafting, we didn't talk about the whole room, because they thought that would be too big of a space and too big of a commitment. However, I think even just a general outline so that there's able to do some of that, moving around of the benches and moving around so that they can see what it's going to look like is going to be helpful too. So I have a couple more ideas I want to talk to Catherine and Paulina about, and we'll hopefully start moving a little bit more forward and feeling a little bit more confident
Yeah.
with some direction.
Worst case, you could always get some big graph paper and measure it
Right,
out. and then,
that's, well, and that's just it.
Paper dolls kind of thing.
I
and-
have kids that would love to do that kind of.
There you go, sub them out, hire them out,
Exactly,
yeah.
you can hire them out.
We can
Probably
put some
get by on the
color on
cheap.
some walls a little.
Right, exactly, yeah, that too. So it's getting there, it's a process.
Okay, good.
So Paulina, based upon the estimate of the cost that you have seen to this point, are you comfortable that the budgeted amount for this project is reasonable?
I think so. We have about 10,000 to spend, so we're trying to keep it within that, at least for paint. I know there was discussion about faucet, swapping out some faucets and things like that. I think we can make it work, especially depending on how we color the painting. Quote was quite high, but it was very intricate too, to a certain degree. It involved different stripes and things, so I think that brought the color, the quote up quite significantly. So I think what we have budgeted right now is fine.
All right, anything further on the children's room update then? All right, thank you. Now we'll move on to the City of New Ulm budget update.
Sure. I attended last week's Truth and Taxation meeting. The council reviewed items in the budget to determine if any further cuts were possible. And the final approval of the tax levy will be during the next city council meeting. So that's when the final budget approval will go through.
Okay. All right, any questions on that? All right, now we'll move on to the action items. First one being Resolution 2019-34, approving member library agreements for services with TDS. And Paulina had already talked about a little bit about this.
The Courier portion, yes.
The New Ulm Public Library contracts for a number of services with Traverse Sioux Library Cooperative. The cataloging and automation agreement was approved by the Library Board in November 2017. The term of agreement is from January 1st, 2018 to December 21st, 2023, to coincide with the term of TDS's contract with the automation vendor. If approved, all will go into effect January 1st, 2020. There's also the membership agreement, which renews automatically on January 1st of each year. Computer and network support, the term of agreement for that is from January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2020. Delivery, term of agreement for that is from January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2020. The interlibrary loan, term of agreement for that is also January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2020. All these contracts have been reviewed by the city attorney, and he has no concerns. One of the attachments on that is the 2020 Traverse to Sioux contract. I'm going to read through this. It's only a page, so it shouldn't take that long. Dear member, library director, and board, thank you for being a member of Traverse to Sioux Library Cooperative. Together we are able to leverage state funding and local resources to provide excellent library services across the region. Your membership and participation helps create and gives your residents access to one of the finest statewide library networks in the nation. Our public member libraries sign contracts with us to allow us to provide certain services. You have the option of signing 3 contracts this year. Each one is an annual contract. Our telecom services, internet provider, and shared automation, the library catalog, contracts are multi-year contracts and are not yet up for renewal. So even though they were mentioned in the previous action item, they're not under consideration at this time. Each of the 3 contracts summarized below is identical to the contracts you signed the previous 2 years. The only change is a change in the details described in the addendum to computer and networking contract. There was a slightly more restrictive language added to the number of years, types of equipment, and types of services offered. The TDS board uses a technology advisory committee made up of board members and library members to develop and recommend this document to the full board. So, the computer and networking contract allows us to use federal and state funding to provide you with computer equipment at free or greatly reduced cost to you. It also allows your library to opt in to computer support and optional assistance with additional equipment purchasing. There is no base cost to you for this service. It is paid with the state library funding. If we undertake any optional purchasing for you, you know these costs in advance of any purchases decisions you make. Please note that there is an addendum to this contract that describes the free support we can provide. The interlibrary loan contract allows us to use state funding and state library systems to provide your library with access to materials from outside of your particular library. Sharing materials among libraries is one of the cornerstones of efficient and equitable modern library service. Part of the fees you annually pay to TDS help offset the cost of this service. This contract also requires your library to follow guidelines and rules for interlibrary loans set by TDS and the members. Your library director has the opportunity to participate in setting these rules. And then the delivery contract is very similar to the interlibrary loan contract that is necessary for sharing materials. This contract is specific to paying for the courier service TDS hires to move materials throughout the region by van and truck. Your library pays the fees associated with its prorated shares of the courier service. At this time, TDS does not receive enough state funding to pay for any delivery courier costs for public library members. Your total annual fees to TDS are set each year by the TDS board with input from the member libraries. Our goal is to keep your fees as low as possible while still providing efficient, effective service. Member fees represent about 25% of our overall annual budget. I am proud to tell you that the TDS board was able to limit the increase to total member library fees to 3% in 2020, despite the fact that the majority of funding, which comes from the state, did not increase. If we are able to realize any savings as we negotiate with our delivery courier services for 2020, the savings will be passed on to you. Your 2020 fees will not be higher than disclosed. I am happy to visit your library board at any time to talk about any topic of interest, and am of course available by phone and email to answer questions. And then it just says, please print and complete a copy of each of these contracts and return them to our office. Completing by hand is fine. A scanned and mailed version is fine. Thank you for everything you do for your community and for all Minnesotans. Sincerely, Ann Hokinson, Executive Director of Traverse to Sioux Library Cooperative. So that kind of explains a little bit more about what the with the various three agreements for services that we're looking at, which was be the computer and network support, delivery, and interlibrary loan. So, after having, and then there's one last addendum on the, or an attachment, and that was for the cooperative fee structure, which shows all the member libraries and what portion they're paying of the total service fees. And there's a total of $440,558.06, and of that, New Ulm pays $33,353.18. I'm assuming there's some formula for figuring
There
out
is.
how that is.
Yep.
So, having said all that, then I will entertain a motion to approve the member library agreements for the services with Traverse the Sioux Library Cooperative.
So move. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions?
I just wanted to make a public statement that I think it's unfortunate that the state does not pay to have loans delivered or items delivered. I think that's just sad. It makes me feel like I'm a little town, and if I want to get my stuff, I have to pay for it myself. I think that's unfortunate. I just wanted to make that statement.
There are some multi-type, I think, monies, but I'm not sure how much of that is coming from the legislature. There's definitely a formula for that within Traverse to Sioux. I think they get some money for delivery, but obviously not all of that, the whole cost of it, yeah.
This says it doesn't pay for any delivery.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, which, it's unfortunate.
Does the motion before the board, as I understand it, does that encompass all three of the contracts we're approving with this vote?
Yes, it's for the computer and network support, the delivery, and their interlibrary loan, correct?
Just a couple questions on the interlibrary loan where it talks about all the guidelines that the libraries have to accept and abide by. Are you familiar with those, and are you comfortable with the current guidelines that are part of that contract?
Yes.
And I should mention again that the contracts have been reviewed by the city attorney, and he also has no concerns. Anything else? Okay, then, all in favor of approving the member library agreements for services with Traverse the Sioux Library Cooperative, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. Thank you. The next one is the resolution 2019-35, approving closing the library on July 4th, 2020. The city of New Ulm will observe Independence Day on Friday, July 3rd, 2020. All city offices will be closed. Because Independence Day falls on Saturday in 2020, it is proposed that the library be closed on Saturday, July 4th. The library regularly is open on Saturdays from 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Note that the New Ulm Park and Recreation Department intends to be closed July 4th as well. So I will then entertain a motion for approving closing the library on Saturday, July 4th, 2020.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? It's pretty straightforward. All right, then, all in favor of approving the closing of the library on Saturday, July 4th, 2020, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, that ends the action items. Now we move on to other business, library board recognition, Holly Postel. So does this mean Holly's doing the recognition, or is this?
Yeah.
Holly's saying bye-bye.
Yeah.
It's Holly's last meeting. I have a library board presents this recognition award to Holly Bustel for service to the community by serving on the board as a member and TDS board representative from January 2014 to December 2019. Here, Bob.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank
Yep,
you,
thank you.
Holly.
Holly.
We've loved having you on the board, and we hope that in a year when you're re-eligible, that you will consider joining up again. We'll see what happens. We're going to keep your name on file. And I'm
will.
sure that Paulina will have a come-out file that says, call Holly.
It's already in my calendar.
All right, anything else? All right, then I'll consider this meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.